Hey everybody, it's me, Kajaya, and I am back with another exciting astrological chart reading. Of course, from the title, you can already see who we're doing. We're doing Miss Carmen Turner-Schott, who's not only an astrologer, but a author. And that's how I first met her, because I really didn't meet her. I bought her book when I was trying to prep for my 8th house interviews. And hers just caught my eye. It was really great. And then I found her on Facebook and we've had conversations. And I'm joined by a fellow eighth houser. You guys probably recognize her from the Moon in the Eighth House video I did with her, Miss Angel Shaw.
Hello.
So are you ready to kick off this chart reading?
Absolutely.
Alrighty then. So Carmen was born August 26, 1975. She has a Virgo rising. She was born at 7:35 a.m. She was born with the Sun and Venus in the 12th house, Mercury and Pluto in the first house, Uranus in the second house, her north node, and Neptune in the third house. Moon, I forgot to list the signs, I'm sorry. But her moon is in Aries, her Jupiter is in Aries, and her Chiron is in Aries. In the eighth house, she has Mars in Gemini, just like me, in the ninth house, in Saturn in Cancer in the 11th house. And her North Node is in Scorpio, her Neptune is in Sagittarius, and Uranus is in Libra. Yes, Libra. So like always let my guest kick it off. I don't have a certain style when it comes to chart reading. I just asked Carmen to, what things would she like me to talk about? And Angel has a lot to say. So go ahead and kick it off.
I always have a lot to say. I love looking at people's charts. Obviously, my first thing doing a chart analysis is just the basics, the rising sign, the sun sign, the moon sign. And then I look at the heavier houses. I'm always interested in that. So 8th house, 12th house, stuff like that. And Carmen's definitely got a chart where when I first started, I was like, yes, I
It's heavy.
love looking at charts like this. It's so much fun. So, and Kajai, I don't want to step on any toes. So if you have some questions, please butt right in because I could talk all night long about astrology, and picking apart somebody's chart could take me a lifetime because there's so
This will
much to
probably
it.
this will probably be my longest video, but go ahead.
I
We'll
promise.
end and flow with each other.
All right. So Sun and Venus in the 12th, that's my favorite place to start. I think a lot of people end up going to the 12th house after the fact, but it's such a strong part in her chart. It really makes her who she is. So having a Virgo rising makes her ridiculously analytical, critical, things like that. Sun in the 12th house is almost a polar opposite placement to have a Virgo ascendant. So what I mean by that is that there's like a lot of identity things, like as a young child. So there's a lot of things to her chart that make her um, it's sort of a turning lemons into lemonade situation, where she learns a lot of things early on in her life, and then later on, she's able to use it to her benefit to help such a huge amount of people. So I love when charts are like that because she's obviously done a ton of work. She provide, she likes the whole like behind the scenes thing. She seems very shy, with placements like this in general. So I definitely have some questions that I would love to ask. But just a quick analysis. She's got a really powerful chart. She has the ability to have so much energy thrown into her, and she's able to absorb all of that and turn it into something positive. And I don't think a lot of people have charts that are that strong very often. So definitely, and then the eighth house thing, she's got the whole stellium in the eighth house. That's another really intense amount of energy. So she's got a couple of key things in her chart that are focused in such a deep, intense way. So I definitely have questions about like what she does on a personal basis to sort of like tame herself because there's a lot going on there. So I know she's I think is she a social worker or psychologist? She's
He's a
something like
psychologist.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, my when I first looked at this chart, I was like, wow, I wonder what she does to sort of like get herself right back to square one, you know, because whenever you're, and especially the fact that her moon and it's all in Aries. I mean, that's a really intense amount of energy anyway. So I know Aries.
Our moons are conjunct. We both
Oh,
have
really?
23 degrees,
Yeah.
23-degree Aries moon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to step on any toes. I want you to go ahead and pick
No,
apart.
do you have more to say? Go ahead, please.
I always have more to say. Are you
I don't
kidding?
want your writing and, you know, note taking to all be in vain.
You know what? I look at these charts and I usually spend about an hour on them. So when I do a full chart analysis with somebody, our conversations can go sometimes well beyond an hour, which I
Are
know
you warning me?
I know, I know.
Go now.
Blah. Yeah, it's so, that's what I love about charts though. I mean, there's so much to it. I mean, when I first look at the chart, my mind kind of goes crazy because I'm seeing so many things all at once. And so I have to get right back to square one, be like, okay, like from a basic, like building a foundation, going right into the nitty gritty details, you know, it takes some time. So some of the biggest key things, like I said, about Carmen's chart in particular, she's got Mercury in the first house too, which automatically makes her this deep digger, which I absolutely love because I have a lot of Scorpio energy and my Mercury is also in the first house. So I understand all of that. And then when you conjunct that with the eighth house, which is a very deep personal house anyway, and then the 12th house, again, she just has a repetition of these things that are flowing in that sort of that realm altogether. So, and then she's got Pluto in the first. That's a really powerful placement as well. I actually would rather my Pluto's in my second house, so I would rather have it in my first, to be honest. So,
hey, you don't want those kind of problems, all right? I live that every day.
I know, but it's one of those things you learn it earlier in life, you know? So it's like it sets you up for a little bit harder to begin with, but when that's all you know, it gets easier later on. So I love that.
Life becomes a
Um,
cakewalk.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Another interesting point that I saw immediately in her chart is that she's got Chiron and Jupiter sitting right next to her moon in the eighth house. Um, Placements like that, anytime Chiron is, well, anytime Chiron's anywhere in somebody's chart, it's healing as well as pain. So anytime that wounds are open and ready to be cleaned out, that's when the healing process begins. So having Chiron right there next to Jupiter is an excellent placement. Jupiter is obviously very expansive, so it takes every bit of energy that touches it, and it makes it more beautiful. It makes it more abundant. So she has a ton of healing potential. So having her sun in the 12th house, being able to absorb all of the energy from people around her, and then being able to use Chiron in such a way to be able to turn those lemons into lemonade, so to speak. It's just a very beautiful way of being able to um, turn negative energy into positive energy out in the world. So,
Redirect it.
yeah. Saturn in the 11th house. Excellent placement. You know, I have Saturn in my 11th house. I think, do you have that as well, Kajaya?
Fourth.
Saturn in the 11th?
No, it's in the fourth. I wish it was in the 11th. It'd be much easier.
Yeah, I know. That's where I have my Saturn too. They say Saturn's exalted in the 11th house. You know, it's a very very old, very karmic, old wise kind of placement. So immediately when I saw that, I'm looking at Chiron, I'm looking at the moon, looking at the sun placement. I see Saturn there, and I'm like, you know what? That's such a huge support for her. That alone, even sitting by itself, sometimes when Saturn is conjunct with Jupiter, you know, you put the master builder and the master planner together and beautiful things happen. That's actually still working really positively for her, which I absolutely love. That's her being able to sort of take all of the information, take all of the energy that she's gotten for the day, be able to step back behind closed doors, analyze it all because she's so analytical, and then be able to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and be able to turn that into something positive. So some of the questions that I would have for Carmen would be, more in the lines of like, what does she do? You know, that's a
What's
ton
your
of,
life like?
I know. Just let me get personal for a minute, right? Yeah, I would expect that, you know, she's probably a reader, an avid reader, you know, sort of a not well, I don't want to say shut off to the world, but you know, being able to sort of like have your own personal downtime. I imagine she'd be something like that, you know, go find like a peaceful spot and just be able to think, because she's a thinker. There's no way that you can shut that off. I mean, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so that's constant downloading of information. So even if she wanted to shut it off, she wouldn't be able to. I don't know any Virgo. I don't know any Virgos that are able to do that. So my husband's actually a Virgo, and again, she's got that double thing going on where she's, you know, Virgo rising in addition. So she's got a lot of that type of energy. So I would imagine that she'd be a reader. Maybe she's some sort of maybe she does some other artistic work or something like that. But I would imagine it would be some sort of intellectual type escapism.
Well, she's written 3 books.
Right, right. So she writes articulately. Obviously, that's a good one. So she's, like I said, a reader, definitely. So, did you want me to keep going? Or you
I'll chime in now.
go ahead.
Don't worry. But
I'll
I
talk
had
all
asked
night long.
her.
You know that.
I had asked Carmen, you know, what are some of the things she wanted me to discuss, and she asked about her Moon, Jupiter, and Chiron in the 8th house, which is in Aries. I think this is a great 8th house placement because the 8th house is co-ruled by Mars. And Aries is ruled by that planet. So her Moon, Jupiter, and Chiron are there. Her Moon being her emotional needs, Jupiter, her higher ideas and teachings, and Chiron, you know, is where she needs healing the most. With all these conjunctions, I would say first she probably handles crisis really well. You know, she when things start to get crazy for her, it doesn't make her break a sweat. She's probably at her best when she's able to sort of get in crisis mode and just really assess the situation and not let it overpower her.
Mm-hmm.
Also, her Moon and Jupiter, they are conjunct, so this gives her a real hunger to dive deep into the mysteries of life. You know, she's not afraid of the taboo things. She wasn't afraid to go there because it's Aries, so, you know, she wasn't afraid to go to the underworld and, you know, mentally put herself there and not come out messed up in the head. You know, Aries is a soldier, so when he's in the 8th house, you know, it's not a weak 8th house placement, if you get what I'm saying.
Right.
Mars, the Mars energy does very well there. So with her Moon there, Jupiter and Chiron there, I would say she did have to go on a journey of self-discovery, and with that, you know, heal emotional wounds she may have received early on in life. But with Jupiter there in the mix, I'm sure she was able to pull a lesson from all of that and found the power in those situations. Like you said, making, you know, lemons with lemonade, or, you know, spinning her pain into gold. You know,
Right.
Aries there didn't make her a quitter. She was able to fight back in some way, shape, or form and just really emerge a better person with a deeper understanding of herself and her own emotions and those, you know, the emotions of people around her and a deeper understanding of life.
Right.
So that is my interpretation of
And
her.
that's a natural ability for her too, because she's got both Sun and Venus trining Chiron right there. So anytime you have a trine in your chart, it's literally just a natural ability. It's gifts from above, so to speak. You know, if it was any other type of aspect, there would be some sort of effort needed on her part, where a trine is literally effortless. It's just a natural ability. So another beautiful aspect to all of those planets there.
And they're also conjunct, so that's
Yeah, powerful. I know.
it's real smooth. It's real smooth.
It is smooth. It's very smooth. Yeah. You know, I also noticed like Uranus and Libra in the second house. I would ask, you know, I would think that she'd be a collector of something of some form. No, my wheels are turning as far as like the reading, the books, so I wonder if she has some sort of like philosophical obsession with collecting. Maybe it is books, but I would expect that there would be some kind of connection there as well.
That's
Um,
also interesting because, you know, the second house is how you make your money. And with Uranus there, Uranus deals with the global consciousness, or, you know, the mind. It's like Mercury at a higher octave. So she makes a living doing psychology, which is really getting into people's heads, and also from writing books on astrology. Writing astrological writing, you know, astrological topics is not something normal to make a money, you know, to make money at. So Uranus there, I think, added to her career of being not only a psychologist, but an author of books on astrology. So.
right. Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to tie in all of those energies that she has. She's really tapping into everything that she's got and she's using it. I wonder sometimes, looking at a chart like that, at what point, because there's a lot of things early in childhood that make her go through all of these heavier things early on in life, but it teaches her to be super empathetic later on in life. So I wonder at what point she decided, you know, what career she was going to choose. I mean, obviously something like this, I would assume, I hate to assume, I shouldn't say that word, but I would think that, you know, this was just a natural road that she decided to travel once upon a time. She just probably had lots of, I would think, young childhood, like she was probably sort of the counselor type personality right from an early age because she had gone through so many things.
Right.
I wonder too, a lot of people that I know that have moon in the eighth house experience a lot of death, a lot of darkness, and that sort of, it doesn't always have to be death literally, but it usually is. Or, you know, she's the first person that people talk to when like a relative passes, or, you know, just, so I wonder if she just started, you know, at an early age doing those sort of things and just fell right into it early on. Or was there some sort of significant thing, you know, that sparked that curiosity? I mean, obviously, like I said, she's a deep digger. She's a Virgo. She's super, you know, analytical of all of these things anyway. And with all of those placements that she has, 12th house, 8th house, it definitely sets her up for that. And then she's got Saturn that supports all of it. So a nice way to tie all that in. So I forgot what I did have another question. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
All right, well, I'll talk about, like you said, counseling and communicating. I don't think people really notice that Virgo risings is the only sign that has the same planet ruling their ascendant and midheaven, which
Right.
is Mercury. So, you know, I'm pretty sure with Pluto in the first house, which makes her a natural counselor, you know, just wanting to talk to people, and Mercury in the first house. So communication, like you said, is really big for her, and it plays a role in her career. She has a Gemini midheaven. Gemini is all about communication. She's a counselor. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. I wonder too what she would want her legacy to be. You know, she's been able to reach out to so many people at this point in her life, and I'm sure that's only growing from here on out. Um, if you could ask her one question, you know, about like what would she, like after she passes on, you know, what would she want to look back and have her legacy be? I mean, she's such a shy, private person on a personal basis, but yet she has so much career oriented out there. So status, all of that stuff. You know, the way that people literally hold her up to a higher light, so to speak. Would she be sort of bashful about all of that, or, you know? I wonder. I wonder because her personality just seems so very um, closed doors, almost like you have to ask the right question. You know what I mean? You know how people they'll answer anything honestly, but you have to ask the right question first.
Okay.
So I kind of get that whole thing from Carmen's chart as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, she wanted me to touch on her Venus and Virgo in the 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
That was something interesting, especially in her chart. Now, follow me on this. It's just an idea, but I could be wrong. But I think due to the fact that her Virgo sun is in the 12th house, which is naturally ruled by Pisces, it allowed her to integrate some of that Piscean energy, which is in her because she's a Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
It's her sun is now that Virgo energy, which is in her, is now in the house of its descendant,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So, both Virgo and Pisces are all about providing a service. Virgo is about practical service providing, and Pisces or 12th house is all about a spiritual service you're
Right.
providing. And that's what astrology is. That's one of the things that I believe in her chart, led her to astrology, which, astrology is a pseudoscience. It's not, you can't touch certain aspects or you can't see them. They're pointed out. So it's more of a spiritual thing,
Right.
that she's providing for people. She wrote 3 books, which I'm sure also help others discover who they are. The Virgo Pisces polarity connects, practical service with compassion. And the 12th, I don't think she suffered all of the 12th house horrors that you hear. And I say that because her 12th house is ruled by Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun is at home in Leo, and her
Right.
son's in the 12th house. So I think she was really more comfortable with who she was and discovering who she was as a person. Like her evolution of becoming herself wasn't so difficult, and she didn't have those problems, those self-destructive tendencies or behaviors that normally are associated with 12th house
Right.
placements.
Yeah,
I'm sure oh,
it's
go ahead.
definitely an interesting placement to have Venus conjuncting it right there.
Hmm.
Because like you said, as far as the polarity, you know what they say about opposites attract and that sort of thing, and opposite energies actually feed off of one another. What one lacks, the other has, and vice versa. Um, Venus in the 12th house, from every chart that I've ever read, I actually have Venus in the 12th house as well. I find it's a very beautiful placement.
Hmm.
Um, yes, having her sun's at 2 degrees, so it's almost back into Leo. So you have that working for her as well. But every once in a while, it can be, and I'm not saying that it is in this particular case, but sometimes it does lead to this sort of disillusioned like memories that probably were harder or harsher memories, but she doesn't really remember them like that. So it can take that little bit of a twist to it as well, because Neptune, obviously ruling Pisces, that's what that 12th house energy can be as well. So with a little bit of touch of that, having Venus there, it sort of beautifies that whole um, misconstrued little details, so to speak. And again, I'm not saying that that's in fact what happened, but it can also mean that as well. I've noticed that in a few charts that I've read before, and it's only through like getting to actually question her and ask some of those things, is it really more you can dive in a little deeper. And of course I wouldn't do that only like one-on-one. I wouldn't be like, here everybody, like
Yeah, on video for everybody to see, right?
exactly. It's just another twist that it could take in that particular placement. Like you said, having the midheaven, like she's got a look. It's
It's interesting.
it is so interesting. I saw her chart and I was like, this is so much fun. I love looking at charts like this because literally there's just so much to it, and you start to question everything. It's like you take all of these major planets, and you start picking them apart little by little, and then you start to be able to take this giant step back, and like you can see this huge picture, and it's like it is super detailed and really cool. So I love her chart. Carmen, I love your chart.
It definitely made me think because especially with that 12th house placement and, it's 12th lords in the 12th house, Venus is exalted in Pisces and Pisces ruled the 12th house. So I'm like, I cannot really read this like a normal chart, and also she
Right.
has a
Yeah, I agree. No, it's like it's lots of exceptions to all of these rules, everywhere
right.
throughout this chart. I know it's a lot of fun. Little side note, don't know if it's true or not, but usually Venus in the 12th house, beautiful feet. So just a
Hey,
little
why don't you
side
show
note.
us all? I mean, you
I
said you
know,
had
like show
Venus.
us your feet. No. Yeah, fun little side note. Yeah.
She also has a out of sign trine from
Yeah.
Jupiter and her moon to her sun and Venus. And it's like Venus is conjunct her sun. So I'm like, I don't think she suffered from, a lot of insecurities or confused about her identity as, a regular person with their sun in the 12th house. What
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening for her. Also with Pluto in the first house, which is the house of self. So a lot of, getting to know who she was also with that eighth house placement. So I was like, this chart isn't normal.
You know, no, but that can actually be a lot of like people that she's surrounded by when she's young that have identity issues, and so she sort of absorbs all of those things. That's how that can play that twist as well, because the 12th house having the sun there, that's a really powerful place to be able to sort of suck in all of that energy from other people. So if there's other people that are literally authority figures to her when she's young, she would naturally start to question her own abilities. And and of course, as you learn, as you get older, you're able to decide for yourself, and you've learned all of these things. But when you're young and impressionable and there's other people immediately surrounding you, like I would question what type of placement her father had, because obviously the sun represents your father as well as your own ego and identity and that sort of thing. So I would question whether the fact, like, was he a really abrasive authority figure, where maybe she started to question her own ability to understand things and get things done, and understand, like, her own ego identity crisis. I mean, maybe she didn't really suffer from that, but maybe she sort of absorbed some of that from other people immediately around her. It's another little twist that it can take early in childhood, at least.
I would also say, looking at her chart, she's very crap, what's the word? Starts with the P. Perceptive.
Yes.
Perceptive. With Pluto there, all that eighth house energy,
Yep.
and the 12th house energy. Like you said, she probably sits somewhere, or as a child, she just sat down and watched
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
Didn't say anything, but just she's a watcher.
Yep.
She's a watcher. Also, she has 12th and 8th house placements. Every chart of every astrologer I've done has had planets either in the 8th, 12th, or 4th houses, which are the water houses, which are, of course, psychic indicators
Right.
in the chart. And she also has, I think it's Uranus, an aspect to her sun, and Venus. I believe it's an out of sign sextile.
Yes. Yep.
That, I feel like, heightens her sensitivity to energy around her, to the
Yes.
energies that are around her.
Yeah, anytime for sextiling, what I've noticed is as long as there's a little bit of effort put in, that energy is prime, so there's lots of potential there. Now, we all have the potential anywhere in our charts to obviously better ourselves and all of these things. We're all intuitive to some degree. Obviously, the like you said, the houses, the fourth, the eighth, the 12th, they're all water houses, which make that even more susceptible to that type of energy. And then if you were to have, if they were also ruled by those water signs in those houses, would make her even more intensified. But yeah, anytime the sextile, so with her being as super analytical as she is, she notices everything. And when she speaks, she speaks from knowledge. So she's very articulate, I would imagine. She's very beautifully spoken like that. Um, and I'm sure that, is extremely helpful to so many people that she's connecting with, whether it's via Facebook or, through her books herself, or literally just speaking to, any of her clients. I would imagine people literally find her so comforting. They pour themselves out to her. She's got that sort of shy, calm demeanor in general. The Aries moon thing keeps throwing me off. I've got to say, I first saw that and I was like, geez, Aries moon. Like, that is an intense amount of energy to have in the eighth house. So I'm wondering, is she super passionate about all of the eighth house things in general? Or when it comes time to make those decisions, does she struggle with quick decisions, or is she a little slower? Because Aries moon in general is very quick to decide. They're very quick to react, very childlike, explosive type energy. It's ruled by Mars, you know, yada, yada. I'm not going to talk all night, I promise.
Yeah. We know, she knows.
Right.
But you know.
But I'm wondering, because having the Virgo rising and and all this energy that she's got, as far as that goes, where she's very calculated, it's almost like a conflicting amount of energy. It's opposing energy. So having that as the eighth house, like, I wonder sometimes, is she quick to react? I would imagine with all of the other supporting energy that she has around her, is that she's probably not quick to react. In fact, that actually might be a little bit of a disability, where she's so analytical, she takes a big step back in order to make a decision. So
Also has Mars and Gemini.
yeah.
So with decision making but she has Pluto in the first house, trine Mars. That's a great aspect when it comes to getting things done.
Yep.
Also, I would say she has a very strong presence. She has a very, even though she's quiet, I would say Pluto there, receiving that aspect from Mars, she does, in all that eighth house energy, I'd say it gives her a really great magnifying presence. So even though she doesn't say anything and she has that Virgo rising, she still gets noticed.
Yeah.
You know, in her Pluto's in Libra.
Yeah.
In the first house, she has a Virgo rising. So that's a lot of feminine energy in her first house. So I would say men are definitely attracted to her. She probably has this mystique, this allure, if you will, about her.
You know what, though, with people like that, women that have her, and I say women that have her chart, like energy like this, it's more of a step back. It's more like a actions speak louder than words type personality. So I would assume that she's probably very selective on who she lets in on a very personal basis, with that type of dynamic going on. Yeah. So,
and with Pluto being in Libra, you know, Libra's all about relationships. Right. And they say Scorpio risings are all, you know, it's all or nothing. Yeah, I would say with her, definitely it's all or nothing in relationships, because she's probably had most of her life-changing experiences or things that have happened to her have come through relationships she's had with people. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, and then she's got Saturn in the 11th, so that's again another little bit of, like, you know, like a handful of really close personal relationships, rather than hoarding large groups of people. So again, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, because that's how she is on a personal basis. But as far as, you know, being that Virgo rising and the Virgo sun, and Virgo naturally rules, you know, the midheaven there. I kind of wonder, like, how does she manage all of that? It's like being
juggling.
It is. It's a lot of juggling. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a perfect way of exactly. So she's able to.
How do you juggle your life? How do you do what you do?
That's why I was asking earlier. I'm like, I wonder what she does, like, for a pastime, to sort of like detox herself from all of that. But
yeah, I'm sure she's very efficient, though. She has a very efficient.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would imagine she's extremely organized. She's very on top of scheduling. She
always looks clean.
Yes.
Her house, because, you know, I've seen some of her videos. Her house always clean and well organized.
Right. Yeah.
She always has a lovely scarf on. Very well put together.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I have on her chart. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think we've touched on just about everything. So,
woo! High five to you. Yeah. And thank you, Carmen, for allowing us do your chart. Yeah. Angel, thank you for chatting with me. This video is probably I'm sure this is my longest video I've ever done.
Oh, no doubt. I know every video we make, I'm sure, will be my fault. My bad.
No, it was great. It was beautiful, Carmen. Thank you for writing this. this is, I mean, like I said in the beginning, I was looking for material to, you know, get to study up on the eighth house, because there's not, I didn't want to read one of those, the only astrology book you'll ever need, and get like 3 or 4 paragraphs on the eighth house and then decide to do the interview. I wanted to get one book on that one topic. And, you know, of course, I like to take credit for all the questions I asked people, but I got the ideas for those questions from her book. So thank you for letting me shine. And thank you for really doing what you do and providing. I think it's great that she not only did psychology and had a YouTube channel, but she was able to write something and make use of all this information that she has. Her books are her legacy, you know, some of the legacy that she's going to leave behind. So
right.
Thank you. From all the eighth housers to you, thank you.
Yes.
And that is our video. Bye.
Bye, everybody.